Hello,
Audacity.
everyone. Welcome to the
Hello.
37th episode of DevKami, and I am Chilo.
I am Tristan.
I am swimming that is starting Audacity right now.
No,
Which I
And
did
we're
start.
ready.
I
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah,
start Audacity either, so it's okay. No need to start it.
it's too late. I started anyway.
Okay. So let's talk about the events. What
Oh
do we
yeah.
have?
The next week is very happening. So for once we have Google I/O Extended
Yeah, on
happening
Sunday.
at Sunway.
Ha!
I think
Do you have tickets?
I didn't get any ticket.
Yeah, they raffled off tickets, right? There's a lot
I
of
think it
people.
sold out pretty fast.
No. So they wanted it fair. So everyone who said like they allowed people to go through,
Uh-huh.
and then they picked randomly like the maximum amount of people, and then they're the
Okay.
ones who can actually pay for the
Oh,
tickets.
and it's actually Father's Day.
I guess
Yeah.
so. Is it a Sunday?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
so I guess it's a Father's Day. So
Yes.
that's it's usually the third Sunday of June, Father's Day.
What?
Right.
So
That son.
and then Mother's Day is the second Sunday of May or something like that. So
GIL.
so they so the Google people, like the organizers, they wanted it to be fair.
Yeah.
It's not first come first served. It's like reserve your spot, and then at this day we draw like people who can go to the event, and then they can
Okay.
go because
I,
apparently the swag is nice. And then they opened up a new tier on the
Uh-huh.
tickets where it's I forgot how much it is. It's a lot cheaper than the original price, but you don't get any
Yep.
swag, but you get to
Right.
like, go there anyway. So
Okay.
it's quite good. It's a very very big event apparently.
Yeah, it's bigger than I thought. I kind of get sick of tech events, so I sit up on this. But we should go. You should go. This is one of the
yeah.
big
If
ones.
you
And
have a ticket, you should go. If you don't have
Yeah.
a ticket, you should not go
Yeah.
because you'll only cause headaches for the people
yes,
there.
correct. And some of the people down there actually know their stuff. I go there and learn from them.
Hmm.
So I suggest you go. So the next big event is Junior Dev. Okay,
Yeah, on
which is actually
Tuesday.
a lot, which is on Tuesday, 19:70 p.m. happening at.
Oh, fun fact. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Maybe
Just look at, as usual, if you want more detail, look at devkami.com/meetups.
and you will
Okay.
find out where it is. Tevan,
Yeah,
where is Junior Dev happening?
correct.
Because we haven't
And
heard.
actually, this is actually a lot smaller than Google I/O Extended, but join them.
Yeah, we have a very interactive setup
Okay.
there.
Correct.
It's not up yet. I think.
That explains what, Kevin. Okay, so on Wednesday, we have Best of Build Native Virtual Conference. It's actually an online conference to know about the best of build. So if you don't want to go out but want to learn more about technology from Microsoft, you should join online.
Is that
The
something
link,
is that of something of a branding? Best of build?
I don't know. I don't know the detail, but
Okay.
I suppose it covers about anything from the build conference happened not too long ago
Oh, okay. So it's like a IO extended for Microsoft.
and online.
Okay.
Then Wednesday they actually had a developer circles by Facebook at the new Facebook event. No, Facebook office
Oh,
at
they're
Q
on Facebook
Central.
office now.
Yep, which is actually my neighbor, 10th floor up. I never visit them because not my. Yeah, I use Facebook, but I'm not invited to their office. So
Oh, okay.
you need to book the event at the link. We shared it on our chat
I'm
later.
gonna paste it right now.
Yeah. I'm not sure what there is inside, but I might go simply because
It's
it's
near.
near my office and I'm the laziest person on the planet.
And we have KOJS happening on the same day.
Yes, but details are coming soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Evan.
Yes. Tevin, finally on DevKami Day, aka Thursday, We have Google Cloud Meetups.
Hmm.
This at Work TDDI.
Is it the same as the GDGKL people?
Yeah, you got Tong Sing.
Ah,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
So interesting talk. Join them.
You got Tevin.
we have-
Wow, busy week for Tevin.
Yep, correct. And if you don't want to hear us talk on Thursday, just kidding. This happened on 7 p.m. Once you're done, once you got and go back home, chill later, then you can listen to us by 10.
Yeah.
So this should happen finish by 9. So you got time. You got time. So that's it. I think that's about any event that I forget.
No, not that I know of.
All right, cool. So what's interesting for the past week?
Yep. Any news happening? Any kind of breaking news?
Well, the big one is Rambly. Do you know what is that?
What is that the burger?
No,
Ramly?
it's not. That's Ramly. Oh, you mean something else?
Okay. I'm hungry.
Yes. We should do a Ramly burger.
Is there something like the hammer? What's the roll
Spectre?
hammer thing?
So
No, Roham. Yeah.
Rambly is okay. I'm looking at the site rambly.com. It's a
Mhm.
side channel attack that enables the attacker to read out physical memory.
Okay. Before that, what is a side channel attack? What's a first channel, a main channel attack, or a side channel attack, or something?
I'm not a security guy. I just read it verbatim.
Okay. Okay.
I believe it means that you use I need to look that up. I do
You
not
use
actually know.
meat.
It's just something that
You actually use the what you call it, the weakness from the computer system, either the hardware or the
Mhm.
underneath system, instead of the direct vulnerabilities.
So it's
Like
not directly accessing and
Yeah.
hacking the computer.
You don't hack the program, but you hack the system.
So it's like
oh,
sensing electrical disturbances, for example.
Yeah.
So, for example, like you know the RF interference we were talking about just
Yeah.
before we started, right?
Yeah.
So maybe someone might be like checking the interference and then
Yeah.
trying to find out the ones and the zeros from
Yeah.
the highs and the lows of those things. Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Some
Okay.
of them like weird ones are like, from what I saw in the news, from the fan speed they derive your CPU time, your network time,
Mm.
so that they can predict, like, because of you if they can synchronize with your network time, they can actually break a lot of stuff.
Yeah, because many of our encryption like is based on the Unix time,
Yeah.
right?
So
Like for
it's not a
example,
direct attack to the software or the program,
correct.
but
So this one is actually they actually hack because of a hardware vulnerability. It's going to be really interesting how they're going to settle this. But I think it's very interesting. So what's other thing that is interesting
Ramblead
for
is
us?
actually a similar to Rowhammer.
Yeah, it's based on Warhammer,
Yeah.
correct?
Rowhammer, if those that don't know, is I think you keep writing something to the. It's actually a flaw in the design of the RAM chip, that it will leak bits to the nearby I think nearby chips of RAM memory chips. Then it will
Right.
be flipped, yeah, and you can gain control. It's very magical for me, right?
Yeah, it's actually pretty magical.
Yeah.
Disclaimer: I'm not a security guy. I do
Yeah.
not know anything.
yeah, but that means you need to have physical, um, not physical access, but physical proximity
Yep.
in order to get off this attack, right?
Not really. From what I understand from Rowhammer last time, is that even your JavaScript can induce a Rowhammer effect on the memory. Like, if your memory is vulnerable, it is workable even via JavaScript, because it is not a
Mm.
flaw in the browser or the runtime, but of the system.
Yeah,
So as long
it's
as you
similar
can
to
trigger the kind of effect on the computer system.
Mhm.
You can I don't know, you can overlook something, or I don't know how it works.
Mhm.
Okay. So what other thing is interesting?
bzip, somebody pick up bzip again, if you know about it,
Okay.
bzip 2 specifically,
Oh,
and gonna
what?
rewrite it in as you know it this day in Rust.
What
Bzip
is
2.
wrong with you?
Mm.
Yeah, bzip 2.
Cool. Okay, it's
Oh,
interesting
I was
because
just this. Yeah, sorry. I was just listening to a talk on Rust, and they said that you you don't have to convert everything into Rust. You can convert the most like buggy parts of
Yeah,
the C code first, and because it
Mhm.
compiles like it can communicate with C, then you can leave it like that and then pick it up later. So it doesn't have to be everything at the same time.
Yeah, that is actually one of the things that people keep forgetting that Rust have FFI, foreign information interface, which allows you to interface with C. You can change it a little bit at a time. So it's actually it's actually highly interfaceable.
Hmm. So
Yeah,
this might succeed.
interoperable.
Yeah, it
Yeah, it
might
might
actually
work.
succeed, and
Yes,
there's a lot of benefit because Rust is like quite safe, and so if
correct.
you transform parts of the code into Rust, that part is already like you already have the guarantees of Rust safety on that part, and the
Yes.
others, if you don't want to modify it, it still can remain in C.
And BZip is used in quite a number of the infrastructure. So I'm just glad that somebody is taking the initiative to actually improve it
It's
in any
been the
way.
story for many of the open source projects, like the OpenSSL issue,
Correct.
and like the there are a lot of open source libraries that many companies depend on, but not a lot of funding is
yeah.
going to that.
That is
And if
Correct.
and
causing some of the worrying trend of software switching from free and open source license to
Correct.
common clause,
yeah,
which
Yes.
is actually not
not the
for
solution.
free, or yeah,
Yeah,
not a free
and
and open source license.
it's going to be even more dangerous because now your exploits are not going to be well known,
Yeah,
and then people
Yes.
wouldn't even know that's already being exploited by the NSA, for example, right?
yeah.
And so, which is
Correct.
good that people are picking up these open source projects, trying to make them safe, such that we are going to be protected in the future.
Yes. But that being said, I think it's a problem of the whole ecosystem in a way. I understand that companies can sometimes to use a bad word. Okay, mess up open source project by forking it instead, and by not paying them because they don't have to, and because they don't have to, and they won't. This unfortunately is how some companies decide to work on instead of hiring and whatnot. Uh, Company have a choice to do that. They just choose not to do that. You know what I mean? Choose not to hire or pay a contributor to fix or improve problem for the open code that they use for infrastructure, because open source is cool because not because it's open. We know that it's open because it's cool. For companies, it also happens to be free.
It
So
doesn't
as a
mean that it's
result,
free. It's
something,
not just free.
yeah,
It's for you
it,
to see everything. You can do
yes.
whatever you want.
So
So,
for us developers, we like the freedom. If you look at money, then it's about free price, the free data rate
Yeah,
that
well,
they don't have to
it's
pay and they won't
support.
pay.
Support is not free. Like if you need like extra, like bug fixes, for example, then
yeah,
you probably will
Yeah,
have to pay for it.
yeah.
correct. So
The problem with a lot of the projects, like
that
yeah.
is another DevKami
Yeah.
episode altogether.
And similar to the topic, one of the news is the former NPM CTO announces this decentralized package registry called Anthropic. And if you guys don't know, NPM is actually a private entity,
Yeah.
which is funded by VC money.
Hmm.
So I think there's some argument about how it's being a private entity is not exactly a neutral or something. I don't know. I find it a bit of
So this is I know the yeah, it's a bit more complicated than just private
yeah.
or not. It's actually a topic that actually being raised by the Python Software Foundation, which also happen to maintain the PyPI repository.
Yep.
So I think the open source payment topic and whether infrastructure like NPM should be privately maintained or publicly maintained is another topic. I think I'm a bit mixed of both approach, and I feel very strong about both approach. There is both have their pros and both have their cons.
Yep.
So I have a very strong approach, and I also have something else about that. I think we should schedule that as a top as a DevKami episode.
So let's talk about the main topic of the week, which
But
we failed
okay,
to do so last week. Why
yes.
things are hard
So
and how to debug stuff.
correct. So here's a question I'm going to ask you guys. It's very simple. When do you know when a problem happens? Let's limit the scope to software, your project. How do you know something wrong happened?
Something
Well,
wrong.
something wrong means that it
There's a lot of
wasn't
things.
it wasn't
I
doing what I expected it to do. Then something is wrong.
yes,
So you
right.
need to have an expectation of what the writing is. You try it
Yes,
out, and if it
Yeah.
doesn't match your expectation, then something went wrong.
right. Okay, when do you find that? Let's go with that for now.
What do you mean? How? When
How
do
do
you
you find
find
it?
it?
It's
When when
either
when I turn it on or try it out, then
issue
you know it.
checker. I don't know.
Yeah, right. So I want to start with something very common that we do in software development. Uh, so a bug that we do is something that does not work as expected. That's the formal definition. But sometimes it's like sometimes it's things. If things that we know doesn't work as expected, it's sometimes relatively easy because we see it directly. That happens like early in the development. Do you agree? Often it is. Often it is. Uh, but when it goes to bug report, sometimes it's issue that faced by test user,
Yeah.
tester,
End
test
user.
user, or
Yeah.
production. Yeah, right. So this is another very fun problem, right? People shout at you,
Really? I don't know.
right? Okay, it depends. It depends. Not nowadays people are very civil actually. But people are very civil, believe it or not. Even though it just made most of them now. That's all. Uh, or actually the fact that they make it very critical, otherwise you won't get paid. So that's also a real problem. But let's say, do you rely? Okay, so here's the first thing. When you find a problem, how do you start resolve it? Tell us a story from there.
Well, first you need to find out uh, what how large the issue is, like
Yeah.
how what is it affecting, for example, and then if you can isolate the issue into an
Mm-hmm.
environment that is known and you can
Mm-hmm.
reproduce it in that environment, then it makes it easier to diagnose later on.
Right.
Because if you
Uh,
just go with like, oh, this happened and I don't know, I can't reproduce it anymore, and let's
Yeah.
not reproduce it because it will cause another 5,000 US dollar loss, for example, then it becomes even harder.
right. So what's your approach then? Let's talk about different situation. I know in software development we often have different situation: front end problem, infrastructure problem, backend problem. Right? Then in between those there is some like database problem and all that. But so tell us a story about the most interesting bug they have seen. Uh, yeah, just start with that and tell us a story how you find it, investigate it, and resolve it.
Well, I can talk about the recent one.
Yeah.
Uh, so the issue was when you create, and so it's like you can create essays basically on this application, right? And when
Correct.
you start creating an essay, start typing, etc., and start like all of these like helper tools, scaffolding tools to create your
Mhm.
essay and guide you. It's all good. But as you progress more and more into the essay, the whole thing becomes slower and slower. The more you type, basically, like when you reach like around 500, 600 words, and with
Mhm.
all of the scaffolds, then it becomes slower and slower. And so that the first thing is this happening to everyone? And apparently it only happens to people who have been uh like using the application for a long time. And so
Mhm.
because we can isolate it to this particular set of circumstances, then it does, like from previous experience, you can already like feel that this seems to be some sort of memory leak, or at least some sort of over production of something which is causing more resources. So basically it's
Mhm.
because it happens as as the thing, as you progress through the application, it over happens over time. It doesn't happen on new essays, for example. Then you know this is something that is caused by uh, multiple usage, right? By adding more stuff into the object of properties of the window. And so eventually
Mhm.
I was able to track it down into uh, having it seems to be a classic problem in React, where if
Mhm.
you design a state tree that's quite deep, you are
Mhm.
going to run into multiple re-renders of the
Mhm.
whole component tree. And so
Okay.
basically what's happening is that the more things you do inside the application, the more objects there are there, and every keystroke is actually causing a re-render of that component tree, right? And so this
Okay.
because this is a very urgent fix, sorry, a very urgent bug, and we needed to get this. Like, I mean, it has been there for the longest time, but then because now we actually figured out that this was the issue, and we wanted it to like to fix it as soon as possible. We couldn't fix it with the actual problem, which is the re-render, because it means re-architecting the whole application, and we don't have time for that. And so what we did was just debouncing the keystrokes so that it does render onto the browser text field or form field, but it debounces the state change such that everything still re-renders, but it only happens after 500 milliseconds after the last keystroke. So it doesn't feel so laggy because the feedback of the lag and the keystroke is disassociated. So we're approaching it from a user experience point of view to buy us enough time to actually fix the root cause into a future time. So
Okay.
that's
So
a
let's
fix.
go detail about how you debug it. How do you know that it's about the re-rendering by that? Is it, do you use a debugger? Do you look
So in the
at,
first thing, I didn't know it was that. It like I just
yeah?
had a suspicion that this was. So I guess this is the benefit of experience, right? Like after you've
Mhm.
already encountered a lot of similar things, you start forming these patterns in your head. And so I had my suspicion this is probably either a
Mm,
memory leak or something that's happening because there are too many objects in
Mhm.
somewhere, right? And so it is so my initial guess was quite close to the actual issue,
Sorry.
the re-rendering of
Just
the state for every keystroke. And I, in order to confirm that, I used some browser plugins like the React DevTools and the Redux DevTools, which allowed me to trace through what is happening. So it's not. I wouldn't say it's not the debugger in the sense of like say like GDB, for example. It's a very targeted debugger, I would say, which is just for React. Because if you go GDB, then you have just access to the whole memory state, right? But this is more like targeted. I didn't want to. So first, I did the network profiling. Sorry, the memory profiling and the network profiling of the application in the browser just to find out what we're dealing with, and that already pointed towards so many. repaints by the browser that it's like, okay, we're having a problem with possibly something causing a cascade of something in React. And going through the React Dev Tools, which is a very targeted debugger for React applications, I can see that um, one keystroke will trigger a lot of repaints of particular components. And that's when I saw that, okay, yeah, if I disable a state change at this particular area, then the repaint does not happen, and that's where I need to debounce it in the future.
So the story of here is that find problem. So the problem started from the user telling you that, then you test it out. Then a lot of it is shortcut. You develop a lot of shortcut as a from your experience that actually point to your
So
environment,
I would
right?
say it's the initial guess. So it's like throwing a ball, like
Yeah,
the ball landed very near the area where it's supposed to hit.
yeah. So okay, so experience and all that. Then of course some tools help, right? Chi Liang,
Mhm.
tell us a story about your problem that you have seen before.
I've seen normally it's for me it's less about, not so much about, more about collecting. What interesting for me is that I face a lot of issues that are not foreseen,
Yep.
like hardware kind of issues and stuff. It's just that to avoid us spending wasting a lot of time into trying to find out. I mean, going into the wrong corner to try to find out what wrong with it, is that
Mm-hmm.
to try to collect as much information as possible, like logging, metrics, and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
For me, those
So
helps in basically uh, pinpointing that where might the problem came from. So,
all
and
right.
also business people
So
like it.
it's not usually about okay.
Mm.
So it's less about people complaining that you actually use are monitoring to look at things, right? Am I
Uh,
correct?
it's that sometimes I'm guilty of it. Is that sometimes when we have too much monitoring, we tend to when they ring the bell, we tend to ignore them because it's like cry wolf. But most of the time, those warning signals are actually valid. So it's actually makes sense to have a look like what might be the upcoming issues coming out. Like let's say that this is going to die, so it causes a cascading failure of let's say the Kubernetes cluster because of one of them is not behaving, and it's not that it died, but it still tried to perform, but caused some issue of try to resync and stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
all this similarly this kind of issue also, like I use HCD a lot. If you guys don't know, it's actually a distributed key value storage, which is very
Mm-hmm.
commonly used nowadays. But version one, I actually started with version one. Version one is actually very chatty, so
Mm-hmm.
that the problem with that is it causes like some sort of a congestion to the network because
Mm-hmm.
it's too chatty, and it's a it's a it's and when it's too chatty, when you have too many cluster, it's if you know that like the complexity basically is exponential, and it causes a lot of
Mm-hmm.
other because everybody is trying to sync with each others and stuff. It causes a lot of like CPU spike, all this what can it if unforeseen situation where we don't encounter in development but might happen in the production. So as much as possible, um, just a lot of this way of finding out what might be the cause is like Tristan says from experience, is intuition that you build by from experience and also by information
Mm-hmm.
that you can gather. But
So what you
so
okay,
far
I
for
understand
bugs
that.
is probably for me, bugs reports are probably like logics that we oversee during the design and something like that, but not so
Mm-hmm.
much of a not really that much of a bug that really that we really forgot or we mess up. not so much of them, but more of a
Okay.
systematic kind of the tools that we use, the hardwares, the cloud hosting that went down. So you at least you know that what actually is the real cause.
Mhm. What you're describing on the alert part is actually alarm fatigue.
Yeah. So
Alarm fatigue is actually a real name. So it's actually they actually talk about designing better
yeah.
alarms, better alarms for medical and industrial system
Yep.
because so that's one of the thing. So what you're describing also is about preventative monitoring, isn't it? So you're actually
Yep.
using monitoring tools.
Yep. So at least
Uh,
when somebody say, oh, something is not working
yep.
as we thought, and but the problem with microservices nowadays, the very dangerous part is that unlike old, like back in the old days monolithic system where if one part breaks down, the whole system went down. So
Yep.
for microservices, it's actually harder to pinpoint where is the real cause. So
Mm-hmm.
the main system, like let's say the web page and certain functions still works, but only certain part that doesn't. Sometimes it requires the customer to tell us that certain part doesn't perform if we didn't monitor, or our monitor say it's basically okay, or we ignore the signal.
Yeah. And also, just I also say something that is very interesting as well.
Mm.
Uh, some of the easiest problem to solve is actually when software crash.
Yeah,
Those are the somewhat easiest. Some of the harder one is actually user facing problem.
yeah.
In the way that we as a developer don't actually understand how.
I actually I actually just got into mobile programming very
Yeah.
recently, but I really liked the crash analytics things that actually would like that in like my web application and stuff. So
Yeah.
I
You
really
should you
like
should do a workshop for us.
workshop
Yeah.
what.
Sorry, just to
Yeah,
like quickly talk about this one. We should do like a
yeah,
weekend workshop, like DevKami weekend workshop,
yep,
where we just
Uh-huh.
teach each other
yep,
stuff. And
Yeah.
as beginners, like I can,
sure,
for example, do a quick like circuit thing, and then everyone
Yeah.
just do it at the same time, right? And then
yep,
everyone
Yeah.
can just watch from YouTube live.
yep,
We should
Yeah.
do that.
sure,
Yeah, let's plan it at the
do
end
that.
of this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
Yep.
sorry
should plan
for
something on that.
mhm. Yeah, sorry, you were talking about
So
Crashlytics and hoping that
I
it
actually
was.
like crash analytics because it provides me like everything that happen,
Mhm,
including like the status of the phone when it happen,
mhm.
whether it's actually ran out of disk space, memory, or CPU.
mhm,
Many of the logging, like for example, rollbar, the one that we're using in the project, they actually have
mhm.
these trace points, at least on the client side,
You know.
or if you set it up on the server side
Oh,
as
the
well.
good thing about that is that we don't have to set it up. You just hook onto the main process. I mean,
Mhm,
you can still have a trace point, but the main thing is we just need to import the library and hook
mhm.
it up to the
What
main
Yeah,
process.
what is a
same.
trace point?
Yeah. Trace point is in SRE. I mean, we put it in SRE term is white hat monitoring, black hat.
Uh-huh.
Oh no, the black white, not white hat, white box monitoring.
Yeah.
Normally, the old school way is black box monitoring where we log something that is post hoc, like logs,
Mhm.
Mhm,
something that's like Nginx logs or something like that. But white
Yeah.
box is that we get into the program and we write it in the logic in the business logic, like uh, whenever a customer click buy, I'm gonna call this function, and that will trigger the update to the server that to increment the purchase by one or something like that.
Okay.
So
Oh, interesting. You can do that nowadays.
yeah, it's
yeah, maybe you should look into this, make your debugging life easier, Simeng. There's a lot of
Yeah.
these things that make
Uh-huh.
life a lot easier, like so this, for example, this the roll bar, for example, at least on the client side JavaScript, it will gather a lot of the information on, like,
yeah,
if you have a user ID in the session, for example, it will give you and try to
Mhm.
link with whichever user it was, which browser, the environment, etc. So try to get, and even the referrer, the stack trace of the exception,
that is
etc.
that is why the all this time series database came to be so popular nowadays because you are
Uh-huh.
actually storing a lot of these points for real-time analysis.
Right.
But you still need
So
logs for like post hoc, like for the after the
uh-huh.
fact, and also for the really accurate processing. Because as some of the discussion in the engineers' mind Slack is that some of these real-time analytics, even I think even Google Analytics is that they offer you two options. One is the speedy one, which is just
Mhm.
estimation. Another one
Yep.
is that the slower one is the most accurate one. The log is the most accurate one for me.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel so left out because I'm still a bit traditional when it comes to this kind of
It's
monitoring.
it's actually not much harder. It's just that you have to
Uh-huh.
prepare like how to put in points and stuff, how to structure your program that so you can add in hooks or stuff to.
Yeah, and make the
Right.
most out of the logger.
Right.
But how do
So
you
we
do it,
already
Swimming?
do.
You say you're old school.
Uh, I'm very old school in the way that I still use log a lot, and
That is
only on exception then we know where the code error is.
yeah.
Then if there is a lot of transformation between data, I will use like debugger. Use Python debugger because I use Python a lot. Therefore, PDB, IPDB or PDB is one of
I,
those things that I
I'm a
use.
bit I'm a bit opinionated in terms of debugger.
Yeah, huh?
If you don't, if you don't
Yeah,
mind,
go on, go on, go on.
is that you only need to use debugger when you have no idea what is going on with the program.
Yeah, in this case, I do have this in production enough
Okay.
that
Yep.
the application had a lot of transformation.
Yep. Then it
So
makes sense.
then it makes sense, right?
Yep.
But I can make do with logging or printing. Guilty, I actually just print a lot. Don't do what I do, but do as I say. Don't put too many print, but I really print a
Yeah.
lot on debugging. Uh, that's in a way that I'm very bad. So
Mm. Oh, talk about
logging,
that. Talk about printing. If you don't mind
yes,
me interrupting, is that like it's very common for us to like sometimes do loggings of let's say I'm gonna log the traffic,
yep,
the HTTP incoming traffic. So
yes,
for every traffic we're gonna print. Let's say I'm gonna print something or gonna log a point.
yep,
But a lot of the thing is that in production, because no, in development is there's only like that many requests that you have. But in production, if it spikes, that logging might be the cause of your bottleneck. Might be the bottleneck, like
yeah,
cause a lot of like IO blocks and stuff because it's trying to
correct,
your program is trying to block. It's actually blocked and trying to write the log. So
correct.
that is something
So
that is that's I don't know. It's our experience and also other kind of logging helps.
correct. So which is why in the old school you usually use things like syslog, then you output to a server that is more faster this or whatnot, kind of offload that
Yeah.
to other servers. In one company, CDN company that I work with, use syslog this way. We also had other. This is really blocky, but they got a tool to make it easier to spread to the logs. So in a way that uh, that's old school, right? But you still get
School
the
is
detail
fine.
that you get. It works,
Right.
but you need to design it to work. So it
Yeah.
doesn't work well if your code is 100 more than one page long, for example. Then you lose the advantage because uh, logging goes up to a level. Which I'm very impressed when you say that you can literally see the hook point where you actually log the point of the code being used. I'm very impressed with that. I never used that before, believe it or not. So my tools currently and as of now is logging, print, and debugging if I have to. Then in between, we need to design the code. How I would design my code would be make it testable.
Yeah.
Uh, and here's why. In some, okay, so the framework that I use most of the time is Django. Django actually provide a shell, so it make your unit of code more independent, smaller, importable, and less of a dependency. Uh, what you get from what you get is you get a code that you can import and test, and more importantly, you can write unit tests. Then you can write comprehensive tests for that component. But how small a component that you have to decide for yourself. But the rule of thumb is any function that has one line is too short. So, so that's my tools: login, debugger, print, if I have to, and shell, and also properly design code to make code testable by scenario. So that's as far as technical goes, lah. Which is why I'm very old school when it comes to that, which is shameful. So any question you want to know about old style of doing things?
I think
But
we went through that.
there's a lot of problem actually because for one, once you use things like distributed services, your RabbitMQ based worker, a worker that listens to RabbitMQ, now you need to plan your things out a lot more properly.
Yeah. That is
So
that's when like some of these metrics like New Relics or Prometheus, they help out.
yes,
Because if you do it properly, like you give every worker a name or something
correct.
with the activity and stuff, you know whether they are blocked or whether they are processing stuff as they should. So a lot of the one of the most challenging for me is in this kind of ingestion worker is that we don't know whether they are blocking or whether
Yes.
we deploy enough worker. So it's with the insight from the what you call the tracker points that we actually can pick into like what is going on with the worker and whether how the stats and or the numbers how many they are processing per like the rates of processing and stuff.
So that's how we do it nowadays. But nowadays, I have a lot more of a user-facing problem in a way that I always miss some part of code that users see. That I don't have a technical solution because a lot of project that I work on nowadays is user-facing, as in
Yeah.
less of a server solution. We do have server-based logic, but it's more of the logic of the server map closely, not directly, closely to use the behavior that user would see. Even though it's a microservice with JSON and all that, but it is that, right? So often that is harder for me in a way that how do we catch user expectation differently than what I think. So that's something I don't have a strong idea yet. Another thing that I really need to improve on to make things easier to debug again, I need to split codes smaller so that we can
Yeah.
test it out on unit tests, then add more tests on certain function, then that is design side. So
Yep.
so that's another thing. So talking about problems, so we focus a lot on technical side. How about slightly non-technical side? Any story you can talk about? Still around software development.
I think it's I think the most common story is that customer don't know what they want.
yeah, that is
Yeah.
yeah,
or
that's a
or
big issue.
there's not enough information to, like, they know what they want, but there's not enough information to express exactly how it should be translated.
Yeah, it's a
Which
loss of
event so the symptom is that the customer probably like seems to not know what they want, but it's just that there's something lost in the translation.
yeah. So I think that I don't have a good solution other than the fact that just learn to listen. One reason why DevKami is very heavy toward soft side of technology is uh, at least for me, I got blasted with the idea that software don't eat the world. People doesn't matter if they automate the shit out of people. At the level that we are there to disrupt business, but what I see is very different. Uh, software are built for business, and business roles are currently in the user's head, right? So which is why I learned to listen. But here's the catch: even business have their own jargon. That's where things get me.
That is when buzzword helps.
Yeah. No, actually, no. Actually, not true. When they use acronyms, I get lost. The problem is we use acronym, they use acronyms, then suddenly the acronyms get all
I
over
try
the
not to
place.
use acronym in communication, and I actually get also in a way like I try to make sure everybody during communication not to use any technical jargon. If they're gonna have to put it in, they have to
Yeah.
explain it in plain language. I try to make it as a habit for myself, and also so that people around me, they will try to avoid talking in in the alien what I got it, non-human language.
Yeah, because I spent quite some time in financial world, which means like the property kind and all that. Believe it or not, the financial world is very technical and they have their own jargons. Sometimes I need to pick up, and I almost lost every time I use
No,
jargons. But
it's actually good to say like I don't understand what's this jargon about. Can you explain it
yes,
to me?
yes,
And for my part, I try not to. I try to speak everything as in. I like to put it as something like a situation where I have to explain this to my
yeah,
non-technical background parents.
yeah.
So
It's annoying, but you have to do it. So that's the thing.
it's actually a good training.
Yes, which is why we need to start playing, keep talking, and nobody explode one day. Oh, that's a good exercise. Board game is a very cool exercise. Also, the game keep talking and nobody explode. That is also a good exercise because you got a deadline. You have to make it as simple as possible to actually convey something or the bomb explodes. So I will share the game link later. It's on the Switch. It's awesome. Uh, so another thing about user facing issue that I'm not very good at is jargons already covered, business rules and already covered. Expectation. Expectation is one of those things. This leads to another project that you do before. There are expectations that a website is easy and well, I don't know. So that is before the current job. So there's an assumption that if you can do X, Y, Z, people can do X, Y, Z, I can't be and all that. So that's another.
I think we lost swimming.
Yeah.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, we
Yeah, I
lost you
lost.
for a moment.
Yeah. For a moment.
Okay, so
Now
another type of user-facing problem people on is actually the business requirement, the assumption problem. I call it the
I
assumption
think try not to
problem.
have assumption. Like if you're
Yeah,
not
yeah, yeah.
sure, just ask.
But you realize that sometimes you don't start out with the assumption that things are easy, right? So I know I just meet
Yeah.
enough people that assume things are easy. I have enough extended family that thinks that
Well, if
it's
they care, you
easy
can
for me
explain
to do.
how complex things are.
Yeah. So it's like
It's actually very hard that even technical people, we tend to look down on certain problems like
yes,
certain availability of open data there,
yes.
that they assume that they are correct and stuff. But if you look into
Oh
it,
yeah,
also like the
yeah.
usefulness and the cleanliness of the data available,
Yes.
there's something we tend
So
to overlook.
and
Yeah.
goes back to my favorite complaint. Technology-based solutions are automatically good. Oh, you lost me again?
Yep.
yeah, we lost you.
No, no, no.
Yeah. Apparently, Google
Uh,
Hangout is doesn't solve the issue of
yeah,
communication.
Mm-hmm.
yes. But technological solution is automatically good is a bad assumption.
Yeah.
So
You have to find the
that's my
right
thing.
balance. It's not that it's it's
It's
all tech is
useful,
bad.
but it's not a. It doesn't automatically solve your problem. Because I just work in enough environment where we have tech people that assume that the solution is right and automatically awesome, and we have a non-tech person that assume what we do are easy. So that's how set run.
I think it's
we have
fine.
10
Just it's just let them be.
Yeah.
Or
no.
Try to explain. If not, if you nothing you can do, you just let them be.
No, actually, the problem is they come to me.
Yeah, Tristan. Yeah, what
So
do you want to say?
how about let's quickly give an update on what everyone's working on, like side projects, before we end.
Yeah, we have 10 more minutes.
So my side project now is Python, and to sponsor money. We got interested sponsor, but I didn't get the money.
Okay.
So I read this book.
I'm sure Microsoft will sponsor you, right? No.
It's not something that I have talked with them, but it's not something that I will. It's not something that I will say in public now.
So you're like the CIA, like no comments.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me show you a book that I'm reading right now.
Yeah.
Oh, I got the Kindle, by the way. I eat my word.
Which version of the Kindle is this?
Paperwhite. I'm reading this book right now. 1177, the year civilization collapsed. So it turns out that 1177 BC, that is the first dark age. Nobody, everything died off. Civilization crashed. People are illiterate. There's no big kingdom. Egypt are still there, but they are like small kingdoms.
What happened that caused the collapse?
Actually, nobody really knows. For a long time, people thought it's people that they don't know who is the sea people, other than the fact that Egyptians talk about that the sea people attack us. There's a correlation. One of the newest thought about this is a concept called system collapse. System collapse is it's not because one thing that happened that we love to talk about. So every time we talk about some issue, right, we talk about root cause, one issue that caused everything. System collapse is like it's a failure of all systems. So in this case, there is a civil war in multiple of the big states. There's war within each other. There's rebellion because a long time war means there's a collapse of there's a collapse. As a result, there's no trade. When there's no trade, some of the important goods are not shipped. For example, there's only two sources of copper and bronze for you to make copper and antimony to make bronze, and you use bronze to make weapon, and that is relatively rare, and you only have two sources of those around. When trade doesn't happen, those doesn't transport, then everything just crash. So they didn't go to a chapter of system failure, but it's called the Great Bronze Age collapse. One of the leading talk right now is not that one thing happened, is everything happened because at that time there's trade for each other, and everything failed at the same time because of a few things that happened. So I like the Great Bronze Age collapse for this reason. So it's one of my favorite topics.
Okay. How about you, Chilyong?
Me? Nothing.
No?
How about your piano thing?
Not. Yeah.
I'm picking it up.
Show me your piano.
Not even Path of Exile. The new league has started. It's quite interesting.
Probably.
It's actually quite good.
I usually spend all my time practicing the piano right now.
Okay.
So it's actually I'm doing a self-learning, but because there's a lot of resources, especially the Reddit FAQ is actually very helpful, and people online and I sort of know some people who play the piano as well, so get to ask them some questions. So been trying. It's the reason behind is not that I'm always wanted to play music. It's like something I don't know, but I'm actually looking for something to do that is indoor and I can track the progress myself. Like I can, of course, if you can play certain piece of music, that is self validation, and does it involve gaming or coding?
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
important that we get rid of. And we need to do it once. We need to do something that is not computing. Doesn't involve doesn't involve computing for a while or computer games. So I think it's healthy. I think we just go to eat
Yeah.
or something.
Oh, for me, it's I'm doing something dangerous now. I'm going to be doing something
Please say same.
uh mains related, 220 volts. So this
Oh,
is,
okay.
so I don't know if any electrical engineers are there to see if this is enough insulation
Mm.
across both, like to account for creepage and seepage of AC. So basically, this is a 5 volt, sorry, an AC to 5 volt DC converter. Of course, you have your screw terminals. Make sure that I have my spade jacks to go there, but I just want to make sure that the insulation is fine, and of course the output
Yeah.
is like it's safe. So I just need to like probably get an air gap around
So
here.
How do you stay safe when trying to do this? You have to wear a rubber shoe or something.
Yeah, you'll probably have
first,
a glove.
yeah.
Okay, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Generally, when you work with high power, you need to isolate yourself.
Yeah.
Be very careful. This thing are fire hazards,
Yeah.
and people got. It is also the voltage use. People use high voltage to
Yeah.
execute people.
So most likely we'll need like rubber gloves, like insulated
Yeah,
rubber gloves,
Yeah.
not just like your normal washing gloves, right?
yeah,
So those things, make sure once when you plug things, make sure that check your breaker if they're actually like breakers,
Yeah.
or like did someone just put a coin there instead of the fuse, for example. Um, and yeah, make sure that your extension cords actually have fuses on them,
Yeah.
so that when
Yeah.
something gets shorted, then it actually, like the fuse blows out
Yeah.
instead of causing an electrical fire, right?
Yeah.
Because
Mhm.
surprisingly, you cannot put an electrical fire out with water.
Yeah.
You have to put like the actual carbon dioxide thingy
Mm.
there to
I
make
think
sure that
which
it
is
doesn't
not
spread.
common within the household.
So, but how I
No, no,
also look.
no. Really, the
I don't know.
normal
I have a
fire
fire
extinguishers.
extinguisher, but I have to check it out afterward.
You
Yeah,
can buy it. You can buy it.
that should be carbon dioxide. Like the normal ones are carbon
Uh,
dioxide
the
based.
the building I'm staying right now dictates that every unit has to have a regular change of the fire extinguisher.
Correct. Yeah, which
And
is good. Yeah.
I think it should be carbon dioxide simply because most common source of fire
Yeah,
is actually
electrical.
electrical fire and
Mm-hmm.
also stove fire.
I want to share this. It's a bit similar to that, but when I was little, I was playing with the one of the small battery, AA battery, and
Yeah.
actually pull a wire from the positive to negative, which causes the short circuit.
Yeah.
And the wire became so hot that it actually burns, and it burns a hole into my finger.
Oh
So
wow.
even for a small wattage, it can cause so
Mhm.
much
Mhm.
that kind of damage.
Are we talking about childhood stupidity now?
Yeah,
Because I can talk about something. So
Yeah, we got only 2 minutes left.
yeah. So I had so when I was really small, I didn't understand how electricity worked. So there was the electric fan plugged into the wall socket,
Mm.
and I
Mhm.
don't know what came over me, but I decided to cut the wire with
What?
a pair of scissors and just like cut the like
The metal handles scissors.
yeah. So
Yeah. Okay.
I was lucky they were plastic,
Okay.
because the old times, like there were like metal stuff, right? and so like I knew, like at that point, so I remember that because I remember looking at the scissors, the pair of scissors, and they're like, it was like where it, of course, the all the lights went out first, and then I looked at the scissors. Um it's like it's melted at the point where I cut the wires, and that's when I realized this is kind of dangerous. Like, because I didn't know about electricity at that point. I was really young. I just thought, oh, okay, maybe I should just like cut something,
Right.
just because I
Luckily,
can
you
cut
didn't
something.
touch the points like the exposed wire.
Luckily, you can tell us now.
Yeah, yeah. So
So
it's a,
don't do
I
that.
had a long time phobia of electrical stuff.
Yeah.
and so that's why it's only recently that I got like the um the courage to try electric stuff again, because I don't really like being electrocuted. Yeah,
Cool.
so yeah, stupid stuff in
Yeah,
childhood.
we can talk
Yeah.
about more of
So
it.
let's see what there is online.
Nicholas
I,
told us
I'll
that
wait for
one
phone.
of his trip, I think it's Langkawi Chalet, caught fire,
Uh-huh.
and they had to use a high pressure water hose to
Okay.
put them off.
Okay.
Short circuit. Yeah, be careful about your. Try not to overshare your power strip, and also make sure your power strip is actually safe with a
Make sure
proper
power strip
fuse.
has a fuse.
Yeah,
So that's the
Yeah.
thing about many of the power strips,
I just
that they don't actually comply with the
yeah
regulations.
I
So
just
depressing.
got I just bought I think 4 or 5 of the non-compliant power strip, and right now they're sitting there. So if any of you guys want it, I can give you for free.
If
Came with a.
someone dies,
I
that
think
you're
they came.
complicit.
I think they came with a 4 USB plug as well,
Ah.
Yeah.
so we can fry
I
your.
might actually get one.
All right.
I might get one just for the USB.
Yeah, but it's actually fine if you use. Just try not to put like use it for your fridge or your oven, but normal
Yeah.
pool of electricity is fine. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And
Then
using that 3-prong plug that's actually compliant with the actual 13 amp fuse inside, that
mhm.
makes it safer, because there's a lot of like cables that I've seen, like computer cables or any of
Yeah.
those like Mickey Mouse cables at the end, that don't even have the ground metal correctly connected to the circuit. It's like it's just a metal bar that's plugged into the plastic. It's not connected to anything, so it doesn't make any. It might as well be plastic, right? So make sure that you're safe.
Yep. Right. I think that's about it
Okay.
for today.
So
Yeah.
anything online?
Nope.
Yeah,
And
I think that's
Nicholas
about
shared
it.
about like his mom rescued him from the smoke and flames.
Mm.
Yeah. It's
Okay.
very dangerous. Be safe.
Yeah.
Okay, that is our
So with that said,
tagline at the end. Be
yeah, we stop
safe.
now.
Yeah. Be
Yes.
safe.
Don't
Don't
die.
die. Don't
Mm.
die. Be safe.
Yes.
See you tomorrow.
See you
Or
next week.
soon.
See you next week.
Yes.
Okay.
Cool.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.